Hello. So today I'm going to talk about another very popular film series. Um, yeah, one of the most famous franchises of all time. Uh, I'm talking about, of course, the Star Wars series. Um, yeah, I'm just going to go through them one by one, starting from in the order which they came out, so not in the order that they take place. Um, yeah, so starting with the original one, New Hope, as it was later called. It was not called that when it came out originally. Back then, there was no subtitle with Episode 4 even. This was all added later when the sequels came out. I mean, not the recent sequels, but the original trilogy was released with Empire Strikes Back in 1980 and Return of the Jedi in 83. So then, yeah, so in later releases, they added the subtitle Episode 4, A New Hope. And yeah, so this one is, of course, a groundbreaking movie. Was this huge event, huge phenomenon all across the world that kind of instantly made Star Wars a hugely popular brand. Yeah, as a movie itself, I actually think it's a little bit overrated. I just look at it very objectively, and compared to the next two movies, I actually like it the least. But of course, this is the movie that started everything, and it is still a piece of filmmaking genius by George Lucas. Created a bunch of characters that became instantly iconic, and a universe that was really compelling and very imaginative. So, for all those reasons, I do rate it highly, but I think that compared to the next two movies, it has a kind of a limited scope, like, because it only takes place really in two locations, which is like Tatooine or the Death Star or other spaceships. It's the next movies have a lot more interesting locations, and that they really expand the Star Wars universe in interesting ways. But it's still iconic, and it's still a great film in itself. I personally just don't enjoy it as much as Empire or Jedi. So I still give it like, let's say an 8 out of 10, and 3.5 stars out of 4. But excuse me. Yeah, so after this, 3 years later came out The Empire Strikes Back, which, according to many, and I also agree with this, is the best of all the Star Wars movies. Yeah, it's the one that really got me hooked on the Star Wars saga. I'll just maybe go back a little bit and sort of explain my connection or my, let's say, experience growing up with the Star Wars films. I actually saw them a bit later than most people. Like I only kind of discovered them when I was 13. I mean, I had maybe seen bits of it before when I was a kid, and maybe I had some Star Wars toys even. But I only really fully saw all the movies from the original trilogy and from beginning to end. Yeah, shortly before Episode One came out, because I had been aware that it was coming out, and so I wanted to see the old ones. So yeah, and the Empire Strikes Back was really the one that got me intrigued about the whole Star Wars saga. Um, it just it's much more interesting, complex even. Yeah, it takes many places, many different places, like the Hoth planet at the beginning, the Dagobah system, Cloud City, all these very interesting places, you know, and it introduced Yoda, which is, of course, one of the most beloved Star Wars characters, and I think my personal favorite character from Star Wars. And yeah, it has kind of like a more unpredictable nature and a more unpredictable structure to it, you know, because the like our heroes get separated, and they go in these different story threads, and it's kind of hard to know where it's going, you know, and yeah, especially the scenes in Dagobah with Yoda and Luke are really really good, with him getting his first trainings. And um, actually, when I first saw it, I knew so little about Star Wars that I didn't even know when Yoda first appears that it was Yoda, because you know in the beginning he actually denies that he's Yoda. You know, he says they're gonna look for him with Luke, and later it turns out that he is Yoda. But I didn't even know that that was Yoda. That's how little I knew about Star Wars. Um, yeah, then you have also the introduction of Lando Calrissian, another maybe controversial character, but still much loved character as well. And of course, at the end, you have that amazing moment, you know, where Darth Vader says he's Luke's father, which is like a great one of the great twists in cinema history, of course, and also something that really kind of makes you reconsider the whole nature of the story, you know. And it's really the thing that gave it so much more intrigue, you know, like where's the story going and everything. And yeah, it's really this movie that kind of made Star Wars into this big saga, you know, because Star Wars, if The Empire Strikes Back hadn't been so interesting and taken so many chances and deepened the relationships between the characters in such an interesting way, then maybe Star Wars would have remained like a one film success story. So it's certainly also one of the great sequels ever made. So yeah, a great film, and obviously I give it 4 stars out of 4 and a 10 out of 10 rating. And yeah, after that we had, of course, Return of the Jedi, the last of the trilogy, and yeah, this movie is just a lot of fun. I have no real problems with it. maybe when I first saw the three movies, this was the one I actually enjoyed the most because it was the one where I was the most invested, I think, by the time in the characters, and it had like a happy ending, unlike Empire, which has a very kind of open, uncertain ending. And I can't imagine what it must have been like seeing that ending and having to wait 3 more years to see what happened next back in 1980. But yeah, it's just it's great fun. It has a lot of good action. I really like the opening sequence in Jabba's palace. Um, the final confrontation between Luke and Darth Vader and the Emperor is really good. The final battle on the, what's that planet called again? Endor. And yeah, you have the Ewoks, which are of course a little bit kind of a childish addition, but I don't really mind it. Um, yeah, this is a movie that kind of wraps the story up in a nice way and ties up all the loose ends. And it's a satisfying conclusion for me to the three films. And it's my second favorite of the whole saga. Yeah, so I give it like a 9.5 or 9. Yeah, let's say 9.5 out of 10, and 3.5 stars out of 4. Yeah, so after that, we had a long time without any Star Wars movies, and finally we got a new one, Episode 1, after 16 years. Took a long time to. I think George Lucas decided to do it after seeing Jurassic Park and seeing, what the technology had done, could do. The CGI, and feeling that he could finally make, his vision of Star Wars come true. And but the movie, as is pretty well known, was a disappointment. It's undeniable. Now, of course, the special effects and the world building are very impressive. It's very imaginative. That's definitely a big point in its favor. It has some great, sights. It's the underwater city, Otogonga. The Naboo planet is really beautiful. That whole planet is like a big city. Coruscant is really an amazing looking place. But these are the movie's strengths. But the problem is that I think the biggest issue probably is that the characters are not compelling. They're not relatable. They're either boring or annoying or childish. Obviously, Jar Jar Binks, yeah, is an annoying character designed to be funny for kids, but yeah, it's just a nuisance. And yeah, having Anakin at 9 years old, played by this kid Jake Lloyd, who after that kind of disappeared, was not really a great choice, I think. And yeah, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are also pretty boring in the movie. And aside from that, yeah, the whole story is not that compelling. Somewhere you don't really, it's it's very different from the original trilogy in terms of like excitement and sense of fun. It's just it got also too many scenes with people just talking about boring things like politics and taxation. Yeah, it's uh, it's weird. It was a disappointment, and I just thought of something funny that a critic said. They were talking about the re-release of episode one, and they were kind of making fun of like the scenes where they talk about taxation, but it's not really taxation, but like the Trade Federation. Just that name alone, having like a something called the Trade Federation in a Star Wars movie just feels wrong. You know, it's way too formal sounding. It's like, what's trade? What is a federation? Kids don't really care about that stuff. One critic was saying, yeah, it's like they were talking about these things like Greek bailout. You know, just it's a silly joke. But that's what I was thinking about. Yeah, the only, I mean, there is some good action. The pod race is really cool. And there's like a whole final, um, bit like Return of the Jedi. You have like three or four fights or battles going on at the same time, but it's all like, you know, it's visual candy, but it doesn't have any of the real emotional, you know, punch of Return of the Jedi, because you don't really care that much about the characters. So yeah, it was a kind of a bland, forgettable film aside from the visuals, and I'll give it like a 6.5 out of 10 and 2.5 stars out of 4. And so that was episode 1. Now moving on to episode 2, which, yeah, a lot of people actually think is just as bad as episode 1, which I don't agree with. I like episode 2. I remember when I saw it, I really enjoyed it a lot more than episode 1, and I thought it was really an improvement. And I remember that the audience that I was with enjoyed it a lot as well. There was clapping at the end. I just think that it gets a lot of things more right. It has also a little bit like Empire Strikes Back. Like it's a bit more dark, and it's also got different story threads going on, which are kind of intriguing and more unpredictable. It also doesn't have any annoying characters like Jar Jar Binks or 9-year-old Anakin. And you have Obi-Wan and Anakin having a bit more, let's say, chemistry, a little bit more camaraderie. I don't know. It gets a bit more close to what you saw in the original trilogy, even though, yeah, the dialogue is still pretty stiff. And the big problem with the movie, and yeah, is that definitely the romance scenes between Anakin and the Queen Amidala don't really work. They don't really have much chemistry. Their dialogue is very wooden and unconvincing. And you know, that's a pretty important aspect of this movie, of the story. So I mean, that is a pretty significant flaw. But to me, when it comes to what you look for in Star Wars movie, you know, good action and interesting locations and some intrigue, you know, it works. It's fun. I like the whole way that Obi-Wan investigates what happened, yeah, where the person came from that tried to kill the queen. And it's got some great action scenes, like there's great chase scene around the Coruscant near the beginning of the movie. Uh, you have that scene with the droid factory, which is kind of really impressive and also kind of comical sometimes. And you have to see 3PO being like a comic relief character again. Just thought it was a good move. And there's this battle on the Geonosis planet with all the Jedi. And you have Yoda having a fight scene, which you never saw before. A good villain, like, Count Dooku, which is also something that was lacking in episode 1. You had Darth Maul, but he looked menacing, but that's about it. He never said anything, you know. So yeah, I really thought that this movie was a lot more fun and was just overall better than episode 1. People tend to kind of lump 1 and 2 together. Some people even like 2 less than 1. But for me, it was really an improvement. And yeah, so I give it, let's say 7.5 out of 10 and 3 stars out of 4. And so after that we had 3 years later again, Revenge of the Sith, the last of the prequels. And this one I like just about as much as episode 2. This is the one that most people like the most out of the prequels, and I guess I agree. I like it about as much as 2. It's a lot more dramatic and dark, and sometimes it's almost a bit too much. But this is what kind of the whole prequel trilogy was building up to. And again, got great visuals, great action, and the ending does a nice job of tying the prequels, tying the stories of the prequels and the original trilogy together. So that's really good how they kind of wrapped it up, and how they also kind of showed how Anakin, how his downfall actually takes place. It was kind of the whole point of that Star Wars prequel trilogy. So this one I'll give it, again, it's not, I don't think it's amazing, but it's solid. So I give it about a 7.5 also, and 3 out of 4 stars. And okay, so after that, those were the prequels. After that, it was another 10 years before we had another Star Wars movie, and that was The Force Awakens, episode 7, the first of the sequels. And this is also a pretty good movie. I have not really any major complaints about it. It really benefits, I think, from the return of especially Harrison Ford as Han Solo. I mean, he's in quite a bit of the long time in the movie. He has quite a big part. And for me, he really elevates the film. It as a story is a little bit derivative of A New Hope, but it still has enough new things in it and interesting aspects that yeah, the new characters I don't care for that much. They're nothing really special for me. Um, I thought the character played by Adam Driver, the son of Han Solo and Leia, turns out to be, um, he's the villain of the story. He's a pretty good villain, kind of a tortured character. So yeah, I mean, it was a solid, return to the Star Wars world, and it was, a promising beginning for that sequel trilogy. But as it turned out, it was by far the best one of those sequels, and we'll get to the other two. This one I would give again a 7.5 and 3 out of 4. So I like, episode 2, 3, and 7 more or less equally. But now we get to the less good news, which is about episode 8, The Last Jedi. Boy, this one for me is the worst of the Star Wars movies. Yeah, where to even begin? Well, it it's not like a disaster. I mean, it's still watchable in principle, but I don't like how they treated the Luke Skywalker character, who was a big part of this movie. He's only in one brief scene at the end of the previous film, but they turned him into like a cranky and kind of cowardly loner. He kind of has some kind of redemption at the end, but then he dies kind of in a weird way that I don't really understand. Just because he's like tired of his, I don't know, weird. It's just, there are a lot of weird things that happen in the movie. Like, it seems to kind of break a lot of traditions and a lot of rules of how the Star Wars universe works. And it has this kind of weird, woke kind of influence, with the character played by Laura Dern with the weird purple hair, always trying to be the boss. And of course, having a female central character who was, really powerful and having like an old male character that is very iconic, like Luke Skywalker, becoming a kind of cranky old guy. Yeah, you can definitely feel a bit of that wokeness there. And overall, the movie kind of lacks much of anything to make it memorable. I don't remember any really memorable action sequences or anything there. There's a couple of interesting locations, like that planet where they play, but there's the casino. And that's about it. So this one I would give it like I'm not sure if it's give it a 5.5 or a 6. Well, because it is okay. Let's just give it a 6 out of 10, and 2.5 stars. Definitely my least favorite though of the series. Yeah, after that we got The Rise of Skywalker, which is the last one, which, yeah, I actually enjoyed it a little bit more than The Last Jedi. even though it has huge flaws, like it brings back the Emperor, which is kind of ludicrous. But I don't know, I just find it a bit more entertaining somehow than The Last Jedi. It's a bit more traditional. It kind of reminds me a bit of Return of the Jedi. Um, I like that they brought back Lando Calrissian, and yeah, I just had a bit more of that sense of fun, and less wokeness in it than Last Jedi. But still, um, yeah, you can definitely tell there was not really a plan in these three movies. It was kind of all over the place. They kind of came up with the stories as they went along, and the fact that they made the Rey character, the granddaughter, I think, of the Emperor, was kind of like a desperate move, and yeah, bringing back the Emperor was just bizarre. But still, I find it a bit more enjoyable to watch than Last Jedi. So I give it yeah, 6.5, and again, 2.5 stars though out of 4. And yeah, that's about it. I actually, oh yeah, you also have those anthology movies, Rogue One and Solo. I've not seen Solo, but I've read it's not really anything special. And Rogue One, I just did not really like it. I didn't find. I've seen it only once in cinema, but I just didn't get into it. I didn't like the characters. I thought the story was a bit confusing. So can't really say much about it. For me, it's about a 5.5 out of 10, and 2.5 stars. So yeah, that's it. There you have it. Those are my thoughts on all the Star Wars movies. Um, I think that the original trilogy is one of the very best trilogies of all time, and it's um, it's a great piece of imagination. George Lucas kind of came up with this whole universe with all these characters and the Force and all these different planets. And it was just a great example of imaginative filmmaking, and yeah, it has that kind of Saturday matinee serial entertainment value. It's just purely enjoyable, purely fun to watch. Doesn't take itself too seriously. It's funny, and also at times surprising and dramatic. And of course, some great music in all the films by John Williams. So, yeah, it's a great example of, especially those old movies of the golden era of Hollywood, blockbusters, which I've talked about in other videos. Okay, well, that's all I wanted to say about Star Wars. So, again, thank you for watching, and let me know what you think.